Seltzer Kings
podcasts.
This episode is brought to you by MeUndies. Underwear drawers are like the Wild West. You never know what you're going to pull out or what shape it's in. So upgrade your collection with the buttery soft comfort of MeUndies. MeUndies' signature fabric is as soft as a warm hug from your favorite sweater. Plus, it's breathable and oh so comfy, making it ideal for all-day wear. Get 20% off your first order, plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/Spotify with code SPOTIFY. That's MeUndies.com/Spotify, code SPOTIFY.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities, so do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
I got 2 words for you, Gavin. Just 2. Opium wars. Ass.
The following podcast contains...
We're going to talk today about profanity. What I've found in my walk with the Lord is that the spirit of profanity is running rampant throughout the world.
Explicit language. Hello and welcome to the podcast that asks a simple question. When you decided that heart palpitations and illusions of writing a screenplay were a great time, what the hell were you thinking? I'm your host, Dave Bledsoe, and this is episode number 488, the Coke is In edition of the show. We talk about the good time party drug that made white Americans think they could dance. Cocaine. Stay tuned. The What the Hell Are You Thinking podcast is brought to you by a guy who knows what you're looking for and can get it for you. When it comes to certain substances, shopping can be tricky, be it a shitty cut or an undercover narc, and that's why you need a guy. A guy is safe and reliable connect for all your needs. A guy always has what you're looking for a night out at the disco or a mellow evening at home listening to John Denver on headphones. A guy is discreet, sells at market rate, and won't hang around looking to get down with you after the transaction is over. So if you're shopping for a little something, don't go to the street. Get yourself a guy.
It's called freebasing, a chemical process that turns cocaine commonly sold on the street into a much purer form, enabling the user to smoke it in a special pipe or sprinkle the white powder on a cigarette or marijuana joint. Federal drug officials say freebase cocaine is a growing fad.
You have a tradition in Peru of smoking the base. So I think that's a possible thing for the future, a fad. We see it on the West Coast and perhaps here in Florida too, of smoking the drug. Also, it's much cheaper to purchase the base in South America and smuggle it in the United States. So I think there's a possibility of a trend. It's still a little bit too early to tell.
You think this is just the beginning of a future drug trend for this country?
I think it could be because it's an exotic drug. It's a different way of doing it. It doesn't show up physically on the outer part of the body. So there's a good reason to believe it could be a good trend to look towards.
Freebase processing can be deadly. One common chemical used is ether, but ether can explode when it comes into contact with a flame.
You're dealing with flammable solvents and chemical reagents that the general typical public or layman is not aware of the properties, the flammability, or the various characteristics of these compounds. And it can be quite dangerous if you don't know what you're doing.
Because of the large amount of cocaine smuggling through Miami, federal drug agents suspect this community will be a key area for the use and importation of cocaine base. Freebase kits are openly advertised in national publications, such as this ad in High Times magazine. Here in Miami, they're a hot-selling item in local head shops, especially since selling drug paraphernalia has been outlawed by the state legislature starting October 1st. The kits sell for under $20. Their chemical contents are unlabeled. They do, however, carry a flammable warning label. But the possible deadly nature of cocaine refining may pose a growing hazard as freebasing gains in popularity. Al Sunshine, Channel 4 News.
My parents had some pretty strange standards for me when I was a kid.
Okay, Grandpa.
According to my mom, she would far prefer that I smoke weed than drink alcohol.
God, your mom's cool.
I assure you, she's not. I mean, I love my mom, but she is not now. nor has she ever been cool. Make no mistake, I wasn't allowed to drink or smoke weed, but if I were to be a little juvenile delinquent, she would just prefer that I smoke the reefer. In response to this guidance, I, of course...
So you did both?
Oh, yeah, very much did both. You see, growing up in my family, it never crossed my parents' minds that their nerdy, timid child would ever do drugs. Oddly enough, being nerdy and timid is exactly the reason why I did drugs and drank booze, because I believed doing those things would make me less nerdy and timid, and you know what?
They really did.
I should be clear, I wasn't a heavy user of illicit substances as a teen. I smoked a little weed, I did some shrooms, and of course I drank whenever I thought I could get away with it.
Finally figured out you're an alcoholic.
And even today as a grown-ass man, I don't really do drugs. I mean, I'll smoke weed from time to time, but never anything harder than that. Not out of any moral compunction. It's just that the people who do drugs, they're not my people.
Sad old drunk.
Also, I don't even know where to begin when it comes to getting drugs. I mean, yeah, obviously weed, you just go to the store, but if I suddenly decided I wanted to start doing meth, do I just Google meth dealer near me or what?
Don't recommend that course of action.
I've got a friend that manages a ketamine infusion clinic, which is a thing we now have apparently, but I don't think I would like ketamine. I mean, I used to work in an animal hospital, and ketamine never looked like fun when the animals got it. So I don't really want to be associated with anything Elon Musk does on the reg. Now, based on the folks I see leaning at odd angles on the streets of my neighborhood, heroin really doesn't look fun. I mean, who wants to drool and shit themselves to have a good time? Cocaine? First of all, I've never done cocaine in my life because it's not my kind of high. Who the fuck would want to be awake all night at a shitty dance club where the music's too loud and the drinks are too expensive? But more than that, my biggest problem with cocaine is the people you have to hang out with when you do cocaine.
Douchebag, asswipe.
Which brings me to this week's topic. Cocaine in the 70s, 80s, and why Americans couldn't get enough of it.
I love cocaine!
From its introduction to the crack epidemic all April long, we're going to be diving into this topic like we're doing rails off a stripper's bare ass.
No, Dave.
But first, we have to answer the question, what is cocaine?
Besides awesome.
Oh! You see, when humans first migrated all the way down to South America, they'd been through some shit, man. They'd walked thousands of miles from Siberia, skirting glaciers, running from saber-toothed tigers, dodging pissed-off woolly mammoths, until they finally reached this verdant green land, had a lovely climate, abundant game, a thriving plant population that could sustain them, and naturally, their first thought was,
"Hey, buddy, want to get high?"
And everybody was like, yeah, but what plant could get the job done for them? And that's when they noticed that a lot of the animals seemed to be really enjoying this one shrub. They'd eat some of the leaves and then dance all night long. So they got Jerry, the dumbest guy in the tribe, to try it, and pod friends.
Yeah, man, he really likes it. Look at him.
And when, after a few days, Jerry didn't die, everyone was chewing on the leaves of the shrub as a little pick-me-up after a long day of eluding jaguars and venomous snakes.
Are you making this up?
I think you could say I'm synthesizing the story. Fine, if you want the truth, here's what Wikipedia says. Quote, indigenous people of South America have chewed the leaves of the the coca shrub, a plant that contains vital nutrients as well as numerous alkaloids, including cocaine, for over 1,000 years. The coca leaf was, and still is, chewed almost universally by some indigenous communities. The remains of coca leaves have been found with ancient Peruvian mummies, and pottery from the time depicts humans with bulged cheeks, indicating the presence of something on which they were chewing, unquote. And when the Spanish showed up 500-600 years later, they found the natives, those that weren't dead or dying from smallpox that the Spanish brought, were fond of chewing the same leaves from the plant that Jerry loved so much. At first, the Spanish, being what they were,
Fucking evil.
forced their new slaves, colonized people, to stop using the coca leaves, but soon found out that
Just say no.
worked no better in the 1600s than it did in the 1980s, and promptly slapped a tax on the plant and turned it into a little moneymaker for them.
Yay, capitalism.
200 years later, European scientists were chasing away to make a quid, and also a good high, and finally managed to figure out what made these coca leaves made you feel so good, and thought to themselves,
Hail science! Hail science! Hail science!
and set about turning the mild high of the coca leaf into the brain-blasting orgiastic high of
Cocaine. Glorious cocaine.
More from Wikipedia. Quote, in 1856, Friedrich Wöhler and asked Dr. Karl Sterzer, a scientist aboard the Navarra, an Australian frigate sent by Emperor Franz Joseph to circle the globe, to bring him a large amount of coca leaves from South America, thus becoming the first coke smuggler. In 1859, the ship finished his travels, and Wöhler received a trunk full of coca. Voller passed on the leaves to Albert Nyman, a PhD student at the University of Göttingen in Germany, and who then developed the improved purification process, unquote. When it was done, the substance we now call cocaine was the finished product. Its original use was a topical anesthetic, but it didn't take long for people to discover that the ingestion of the product produced a euphoria and a desire to
shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Shake your booty. Shake your booty. Oh, shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Shake your booty. Shake your booty.
In addition to this, many people found that cocaine increased their ardor for the sexual liaison. Used in just the right amount, they discovered they could indeed
fucking all night long.
But if they used too much of it, the desire was still there. However, the ability was impaired, thus introducing the term coke dick into the modern lexicon. Of course, all of this was medicinal.
Mama needs her medicine.
And there seemed to be nothing cocaine couldn't cure. In addition to its actual anesthetic properties, cocaine was used to treat allergies, alcoholism, depression, hysteria, sexual dysfunction, insomnia, narcolepsy, tuberculosis, ague, anemia, morphine addiction, liver ailments, blood ailments, and of course any number of women's problems from menstrual pain to just plain old uppiness. If your woman gave you some sass, you gave her cocaine.
Did it work?
Not in the least, but hey, at least she got a nice high off of it. Of course, never forget that the classic American beverage Coca-Cola,
it's right there in the name,
was chock full of cocaine back in the day. It took a few years, but eventually the idea that maybe selling cocaine over the counter to cure toenail fungus wasn't the best one, and laws were passed regulating medicine, and cocaine became prescription only. Not that this really slowed down its use all that much, because the funny thing about cocaine is for many users, once they have it, they kind of want more of it. And for decades, it was endemic in poor neighborhoods, particularly among African Americans, which led to draconian crackdowns on the drug, and it all but faded from the market and was replaced by other drugs like heroin. This remained the case until the late 1960s when coke was primed for its comeback. As the youth began to sample the pharmacopoeia of fun, they began to expand their search for new highs and soon found that an old favorite, cocaine, shows some real promise in the field. Why choose cocaine? Well, unlike other drugs such as heroin or barbiturates, coke is a stimulant. It gives you an intense burst of energy, but also a sharpened sense of focus, unlike that manic energy of meth. The vivid euphoria that rushes through your veins is clean and bright, without the loopiness caused by the hallucinogens like LSD and mushrooms. With cocaine, you want to do things, unlike the laziness of weed. With cocaine, you're gregarious, chatty, clever, fun, and sexy. Only cocaine can make you that promise. If this sounds like something you might be into, then cocaine might be right for you. See your cocaine dealer for details. But don't take it from me, because again, I have never done cocaine. Listen to the words of people who have actually used cocaine. From Quora.com. It's the one time I actually feel okay about citing this usually rather dubious source. Quote, cocaine feels a bit like sex, orgasm, and a bit like romance, cuddling at the beginning. It'll make an already good night great. If it's a person who usually is socially anxious, they feel uncharacteristically confident and experience an inner tranquility and calmness that they might have never felt in their entire life. It feels fantastic. Euphoria. For an hour or so, you feel this amazing sensation of invincibility, like nothing is beyond reach, and you'd be able to do anything and everything in the world if you wanted to. An amazing confidence boost. Confidence, confidence, confidence. This word keeps revolving when you snort it for the first time, then you will feel like everything is not only possible, but you will do it no matter what. It intensifies all your senses. At first, you're more alert. You're more aware of everything around you. It makes you feel as you can conquer the whole world. It makes you love being around other people doing this drug. It makes you partying so much better, and it makes you feel as if it's the best sex ever, unquote.
That sounds awesome.
I've never heard a single person say a bad thing about the first time they took cocaine. Also, they all do have a story about the crash that comes after you use cocaine, because apparently, after you come down off the high, nothing is as good as it was before you took the coke, leading you to ask the inevitable question.
You need more of that coke? Did we bring that in?
In 1975, 600 kilos of cocaine were seized by federal authorities on a small plane flying into Florida. It was the largest bust ever at the time. By the mid-'80s, busts of 10 to 20 times that size were routine. And that was what was caught. So much cocaine was coming in that the cartels could shake off $1 million shipment being caught because so many more were getting through.
The best of times.
Everyone who was anyone was doing cocaine, and they were not at all shy about it. From the New York Times in 1974, quote, its users encompass all social and economic categories, but are particularly concentrated among what one drug abuse specialist calls the glitter people. A who's who of Hollywood and Hollywood on the Hudson that includes actors, models, athletes, artists, jazz musicians, designers, and admin. In many of their soirees, an after-dinner sniff of the fine white powder, either from a bejeweled Coke spoon held to the nostril or through a tightly rolled banknote, the higher the denomination, the better, is as common as a snifter of brandy. No less an authority than Rolling Stone has reported that rock musicians participating in a radio, TV, public service assault on drug abuse last year regularly panned amphetamines and barbiturates, but never downgraded cocaine. Heavy users of themselves, they didn't want to appear hypocritical, unquote. New York and Los Angeles were a blizzard of cocaine.
Really, Dave?
It was so rife in the movie industry that by the mid-'70s, studios themselves were taking steps to prevent it from getting on the sets. Not out of any moral or legal concerns, but because the actors were so coked up, they couldn't work, and it was costing the studios money. From another New York Times article in 1978, quote, Coke is the ambrosia of the gods, a publicity agent said. The gods to whom he referred to are movie stars, and he had just worked on 2 pictures back-to-back in which the male star carried a heavy coke habit. Everybody walks in fear around coke. You're not related on a human level anymore. If you ask a question, you never know where the answer will come from or what paranoia or tantrums the question will produce. The presence of the drug on movie sets is hardly a secret. With Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Al Ebner, publicity agent, first became aware that there was a drug-related problem 3 weeks into the filming location. I smoke pipe tobacco, and that isn't available in Wyoming, he said. I asked for the tobacco to be sent in a studio pouch. A week or 10 days went by, and it didn't show up, and when I asked why, I was told that the studio was checking everything that went into the pouch because too much dope was being sent, unquote. The music industry was somehow even worse. Yeah, I know, big surprise, but cocaine was something new and different because cocaine does come with a certain creative utility, and it was particularly attractive to musicians. I mean, good God, Bowie alone did enough coke to kickstart the Medellin cartel. And there's a good argument to be made that without cocaine, we'd never have had hair metal.
Is that a bad thing?
Fuck you, I like hair metal, okay? What I'm trying to say is that, yes, cocaine had a terrible toll on the music and entertainment industry in the long term. People died from overdoses and struggled with crippling addiction issues because of their cocaine use. But pretty much everything Fleetwood Mac ever wrote and recorded was influenced heavily by the massive amount of coke they were doing. So, maybe it balances out.
Dave, no!
By the late 1970s, cocaine was booming in the heartland as well as on the coast. The mainstream media was running articles explaining what the drug was and why it was so popular. From a Deseret News article in the 90s, quote, in 1977, Dr. Peter Bourne, who was President Jimmy Carter's top anti-drug official, said cocaine is probably the most benign of illicit drugs. At least as strong a case could be made for legalizing it as for legalizing marijuana. It was a time when Newsweek magazine would publish a story, as it did in 1977, which said cocaine probably causes no significant mental or physical damage, and a number of researchers have concluded that it can be safer than liquor and cigarettes when used discriminately. Bourne later admitted to using cocaine at a party for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Keith Stroop, the executive director of NORML, who has been involved in the group's efforts to decriminalize drugs since the 70s, said the things Peter Bourne was saying about cocaine represented the thinking of a lot of progressive drug officials then. And a national survey of 18 to 25-year-olds taken in 1979 showed that 70% had taken illegal drugs, and at least half were regular drug users. At least 20% admitted cocaine use. The peak year was 1979, Stroop recalled. My impression is that in the late 1970s, society as a whole was a bit more permissive about marijuana and cocaine, unquote. Or there was this article from Time magazine in 1981, quote, whatever the price, by whatever name, cocaine is becoming the all-American drug. No longer is it a sinful secret of the moneyed elite or merely an elusive glitter of decadence in roughish society circles, as it seemed to be in decades past. No longer is it primarily an exotic and ballyhooed indulgence of the high-class entrepreneur Hollywood types and high rollers, as it was only 3 or 4 years ago. The most conspicuous of consumptions to be sniffed from the most chic of coffee tables throughout crisp, rolled-up $100 bills. Today, in part precisely because it's such an emblem of wealth and status, Coke is the drug of choice for perhaps millions of solid, conventional, and often upwardly mobile citizens. Lawyers, businessmen, students, governments, bureaucrats, politicians, policemen, secretaries, bankers, mechanics, real estate brokers, waitresses, largely unchecked by law enforcement, a veritable blizzard of white powder is blowing through the American middle class, and it's causing significant social and economic shifts no less than distributing a drug problem. Superficially, Coke is a supremely beguiling and relatively risk-free drug. At least so its devotees innocently claim. A snort in each nostril and you're up and away for 30 minutes or so, alert, witty, and with it. No hangover, no physical addiction, no lung cancer, no holes in the arms or burned out cells in the brain. Instead, drive, sparkle, energy. If it were not classified incorrectly by the federal government as a narcotic, and if it were legally distributed throughout the U.S. as it was until 1906, cocaine might be the biggest advertiser on television. You can hear the commercials. Endorsed by Dr. Sigmund Freud, the inspiration of poets, artists, and inventors, you too can be inspired thanks to a stimulant revered as sacred 8 centuries ago by the great Inca civilization. Start each day right with a snow good or flakes, and a little leaf instead of lettuce for lunch. Toot sweet, come to happy hour. Brand music swells and crescendo. Make it better with Coke, unquote. And that is from an anti-cocaine article. Cocaine was a hit, and it was only growing more popular, and by the advent of the 80s, cocaine was hip. It was the drug of choice for rising baby boomers from Wall Street to Main Street, and there was so much fucking money in cocaine that it was literally becoming an international economic market.
That seems problematic.
Bright young entrepreneurs of the criminal variety have understood that the market was ripe for disruption with cocaine, but there was one small problem.
We don't have any.
Meth and LSD were local manufacturers, and there had long been established drug routes for weed and heroin into the United States, but that infrastructure did not exist for cocaine, so naturally it began small, as these things do. It was insanely easy to fly to Colombia, buy a kilo of pure coke, shove it in your suitcase, and just fly back to the States. And once you were home, you cut the cocaine, mixing anything from baking soda to baby powder to aspirin. And this served two purposes. One, pure coke would fucking kill someone not used to doing coke. But more importantly, how heavily you cut it, you could make 1 kilo into 4 or 5 kilos of coke and sell it for the same price.
Now that's capitalism.
This was all well and good for mom and pop dope shops, but the real money was, of course, in economy of scale. And starting in the early 1970s, Cuban cartel smugglers, with a little help from the CIA, began to construct the cocaine import system that remains today. From the book The Cocaine War in Context, Drugs and Politics by Belin Bonneville, quote, during the 1960s and 70s, the drug culture and the beat generation spread to the larger hippie movement and to the younger generation, more or less as a whole. Drug use extended its popular base and participation in the market as cocaine began substituting for amphetamines. Many individuals became involved in the trade, distributing small quantities among people they knew. The principal channels of distribution still in use today were formed during that time. Drug policy leaders who were slow to respond, busy as they were, pursuing the drugs of protest, marijuana and LSD. But the new drug preferences and the advent of Cuban managers and professionals on the international economic scene meant tons of top-quality cocaine into the U.S. This coincided with a series of attitude changes at the highest levels of society. After the pacifism and reflection of the movements of the 60s, the economic crisis of the 70s, and the very recent technological revolution and around work fever emerged, which valued competition, speed, productivity over solidarity, tradition, and family. Thus were created the ideal conditions for a growing market for cocaine. The Cuban exile groups, aided by U.S. politicians in an effort to support Cuban counter-revolutionary efforts, organized a cocaine smuggling ring based in Miami. Backed by excellent government contacts in the armed forces and authorities of various Latin American countries, cocaine in all its forms was supplied by the Cubans. In the early 1980s, cocaine was surrounded by a halo of prestige and exclusivity throughout the Western world, which made it invulnerable and free of social stigma for its users. and cocaine use and control policies increased, the black market adapted. In the 1980s, witnessed the cocaine boom. According to The Economist, of the $150 billion American spent annually on drugs, 60 to 70 billion went to buying cocaine on the retail market. And that is where we will pick up next week with the story of the city that Coke built. Because now, pod friends, shit starts to get real.
This episode is brought to you by Greenlight. Get this. Adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than those who don't. From swimming lessons to piano classes, us parents invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives. But are we investing in their future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids financial literacy skills like earning, saving, and investing. And this investment costs less than that after-school treat. Start prioritizing their financial education and future today with a risk-free trial at greenlight.com/Spotify. Greenlight.com/Spotify.
So, you just started using LinkedIn Premium. Now what? Well, on your premium company page, you noticed around 7.5 times more page engagement and 5 times more page views. Well done. And now, new clients are messaging you. All because you're using LinkedIn Premium, which helps you get the business growth you want. Think big, small business. Think big. Start your free trial at linkedin.com/premium small business. That's linkedin.com/premium small business.
And that is it for the show this week. Now, look, there has been a certain lighthearted tone about drug use in this show, and that tone will continue because I've never been a junkie, and therefore I have never reached the point where I had to,
I used to suck dick for coke. I seen them.
And you know what? That's on me. But I should probably say that if you have a drug problem, you should get help with that or something. I'm not telling you how to run your life or anything, but maybe. I mean, like, if you're going to go down on strangers for a fix, then you could probably stand to kick us a buck at patreon.com/whatthehellpodcast. We swear all that money is used for nice legal drugs like Irish whiskey, which is much, much better than Coke because the government says it is. If you can't do that, rate and review us wherever you get your pods. If you listen on Spotify, I guess you can comment on episodes. I don't know why you would want to do that, but it just eludes me like reasons for doing blow. Do all the things Jeremy tells you to do in the closing credits, otherwise he will be forced to cut Gavin off from his Claritin connection. The cat makes him sneeze. And so for me, Dave, they call it Wacky Dust, Bledsoe, producer.
They call it Wacky Dust. It brings a dancing jig. This really sounds quite illegal.
Gavin, and all the fictional guys who know a guy on the show, we want to say, and in the end, the rhythm will stop when it does, and you'll drop from that happy, wacky dust. And we'll see you all next week.
And only a sapple refused to big apple or share. Though I don't know just why it gets you so high, putting a buzz in your heart. You do a marathon, you'll wanna go on, kicking the ceiling apart, they call it wacky dust. It's something you can't trust.
What the Hell Were You Thinking stars Dave Bledsoe and features Gavin St. James and several fictional minions. The show is produced by Kimberly Steele and a part of the Seltzer Kings podcast network. You can find more information on the show on their website, whatthehellpodcast.com, or on Facebook as What the Hell Podcast. Thanks for listening.
I have no ending for this, so I take a small bow.
Cocaine in Miami?
Seltzer Kings
Podcasts.